We got to speak to Kirby Smart this week, and he says that Gunnar Stockton is gaining the one thing that he really doesn't have in his college football resume. That's experience. That's reps with the ones. That's game time action. Gunnar Stockton doesn't have that. Georgia likes to get reserves going. They like to rotate. They like to build their depth as much as possible. And that hasn't been happening this season. So Gunnar Stockton hasn't been getting out there. They haven't been blowing people out. Teams like at the beginning of the year when they're playing, I'm blanking on who they played in the second week of the year, but they haven't blown teams out. They didn't blow out UMass the way they wanted to late in November, and that's why you didn't see a lot of Gunnar Stockton in 2024 as the backup quarterback. Didn't see him in 2023 really because he was the third string behind Brock Vandegrift, and in the garbage time moments, they got Vandegrift out there. So Gunnar Stockton lacks experience, and they're going to have to go with him because Beck, he had the surgery, he's out, right? And that we all knew this was happening, but it's officially out, and it's Gunnar. Well, what you get is you get this month, you get December. You get pretty much, you go from December 7th, the SEC Championship, all the way to January 1st. That's the period of time that they have to where they've pretty much known, hey, look, this is going to be Gunnar Stockton running this offense for us as the quarterback. So they've been able to prepare for that. They had an extra, 2 weeks they had an extra 13 days over Notre Dame to prepare for the matchup, to get Gunnar Stockton out there. Obviously, when they're preparing before that bowl game, they're, looking into both Indiana and Notre Dame. Well, now they've had a few days where they can just hone in on over Notre Dame. Got a whole nother week, maybe 8 days until that game against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. So Gunnar Stockton is getting all this experience. Kirby talked about it this week. I want to talk about it a little bit, and it's something that, you can't always see like practice and how it translates to the games, but sometimes you can, and I just think this is such a unique situation for Georgia, and it makes it extremely difficult to gauge, and I think it's funny because this season has been difficult to gauge. I mean, go look at the Dawg Post predictions for this year. I've been so bad at it, predicting all the games, and we do picks against the spread, and we don't just pick Georgia games, we pick a ton of games. And this has been, to me, now other people may feel differently, one of the most unpredictable seasons that I can remember in college football. And obviously I've been doing this for a few years now. I think this is year fourth full year, but I've been doing this kind of generally a little bit longer than that. And there's not been this much unpredictability in the season. College football landscape has certainly changed, and you can see that in the week-to-week basis. And when you look at this bracket and you look at this Georgia team, what do you predict with it? When you see the matchups on paper that aren't great for Georgia on paper, you get the situation where you're switching your starting quarterback from Carson Beck to Gunnar Stockton due to injury at, I guess the worst possible time would be like right before a game, but during bowl season, it's not a good time for that to happen, and we just don't know what's going to happen. And I think that this really is kind of the bow on top of an unpredictable season, is that this is the version of Georgia we're getting. We're getting a version of Georgia that we really have only seen glimpses and pieces of. So, Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here, talking about why I've got to make sure that doesn't happen, and it's not going to happen again now. And I think that with Gunnar, he's used to big moments, and he's played in big moments at Rabun County in high school in Georgia, and he's a big-time player, right? But now it's different, and now they're repping him as the one. This is a guy that, look, he didn't get that much reps with the ones. And so Kirby's talking about practice now, right? And he's talking about the experience. I'm going to read out. I will show you the Dawg Post version of what Kirby had to say, and I will highlight it, because I know you guys like to do read-alongs with me. It's actually here. Kirby asked about the biggest thing with Gunnar Stockton. He said, I would say it's just experience, right? He gets practice. He gets lots of reps prior to these practices, but he's getting much more now. I do think knowing when you get ready for an opponent like Notre Dame, you need time. And we haven't known who we're going to play for, I guess, 24 hours, 48 hours. He's talking about how long they've known him. And then he goes, and certainly there's a lot of time and prep you can do to prepare for that. And we prepared in some of that prior to that because we knew it would be one of the two opponents. But I think the biggest thing is just competition in practice, the situations we put him in. All of those things allow him to get better as a quarterback. Excuse me. So, with Gunner, all he's seen at Georgia prior to this SEC championship was a couple of garbage time. I think he played in 1 or 2 games in some serious garbage time in 2023, and then just a couple in 2024. And of course, a good portion of the second half of the Orange Bowl against Florida State, where let's face it, man, they're just playing teams that are just not. It's just not the same level of competition out there between what was going on with Florida State that day and what was going on with Georgia. And he looked really good doing it, and you got to see what the offense would look like with Gunner Stockton. But now, I think it's good for his sake that this didn't happen during practice, in between the SEC championship and the college football playoff. I think that for Gunner, being able to get thrusted into the SEC championship game, it happening during the game, him going out, him leading them to overtime, leading a couple of touchdown drives, making some big plays, igniting the crowd, igniting the team and the run game specifically. I think that experience for Gunner is probably going to go a really long way. And it was against, a good Texas team that has one of the better defenses in college football. We're able to see him play against one of the better units in the sport. I think that was huge probably for his confidence and his experience. It's probably huge for Gunner to see how Kirby is talking about him on the sideline and see Kirby tearing up, just talking about how proud he was of him and how much he was a gamer. And you see how Trevor Etienne is talking about him on the sidelines. I think that getting thrown out there against Texas is probably going to be a pretty good thing for him for these next few weeks. When you think about, okay, now Gunner's been in a hostile situation in college football. He was in the SEC championship against another college football playoff opponent in Texas. Now it's the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame. But this time the team is preparing for you, and they're preparing for you for a couple of weeks. How is that going to be? Now that he is just the starting quarterback. Now the difference is in practice. In practice before this, all he's doing is getting second team reps for the most part, and maybe a little bit of scout team. I kind of doubt he's been scout team a lot at this point in his career, but I'm sure he's still doing it a little bit for certain looks against certain teams. But he's doesn't rep with the ones. I get to go every once in a while. You get to go and see, and it's Carson Beck with the ones, because Carson Beck was the one, and now it's Gunner Stockton obviously with the Beck injury. This month of just being the guy in practice, that's going to change things a lot. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is going to be an easy situation for Georgia. This is not. If you think this is easy peasy, and look, Georgia could end up just destroying Notre Dame and destroying Penn State or Boise State and getting pretty far in this thing or winning it all. This is a difficult challenge. This is a different type of challenge that the Dogs have been dealt, and we truly don't know what it's going to look like, because we don't know what a whole game plan package for Gunner Stockton looks like, and we don't know what it'll be when he's not just throwing the ball around the line of scrimmage and he's not just running the ball because they're just trying to control the game and get out of there. We don't know what it will look like when they completely open it up. We know that he's kind of made for the moment, and he didn't shy away from the moment. He didn't shy away from contact, but in terms of full game plan. Now, I think there's a lot of positives that can come out of this for Georgia. I think that in ways Georgia's offense can be better. This was an offense that was sputtering all season long. Sputtering is all season long is maybe a drastic way to put it, but there were a fair share of games where it was like, man, this is just not what it needs to be if this team wants to get to where it wants to go and what it says it's going to go. It just wasn't. And maybe Gunner can unlock a little bit of that in the run game. That's the biggest difference I think we'll see. I don't know if it'll be as lethal vertically passing, but there's an opportunity when you have a mobile quarterback whose legs you have to respect, to where it's going to get guys open downfield and it's going to get guys open in the run game. So I think that there's potential with this offense. It's about, is Gunner ready for this moment? Is this offense ready for this moment? And is this defense going to be a really good Notre Dame defense? We'll talk more about Notre Dame. All right, it's Christmas Eve. All right, I hope you're celebrating the holidays. We're going to continue to make content. And we're going, I'm recording this Christmas Eve, and this is going out Christmas Eve. We're heading down to New Orleans on the 29th, so we'll be heading down there. We'll be there for a few days. We're going to put out a lot of content from down there. Very, very excited about this trip. I'm excited to see what this offense looks like with Gunner Stockton. It's the experience, Kirby told you, and that's definitely the biggest biggest factor. Just the reps with the ones over this next month is huge for Gunner. Thanks for watching.